Listen, you guys have been wanting me to cover some more crazy conspiracy theory channels for a while now. And when I say crazy conspiracy theory channels,
has donated $30.
When I say crazy, like conspiracy theory channels, I'm not talking like flat Earth. I'm not talking like anti-vax. I'm not talking like QAnon. I'm talking flat Earth. I'm talking alien invasion, abductions, UFOs and shit like that, okay? That's the kind of fucking conspiracy shit that people have been asking me to at least try to do a segment on for a while, particularly since like a couple years ago. Vosh did these segments where he would react to these videos, like these spirit science, whatever videos, and people really liked them, I guess. And when he started doing those, people would start spamming me with messages, like just requesting that I do something like that. And you know what? Because I, had a rough last couple days, I decided that I'd give you guys a little bit of a booster magooster. I thought I'd give you something that you guys like, something you guys have been asking for a while now. As to what I would be covering today, and I decided we'd be covering a pretty well-known conspiracy theorist having to do with UFOs and conservatism. We're actually going to get a nice little mix of conspiracy theory stuff and conservatism in this video, so I feel like it'll fit pretty well in the general type of politics that I do. This video is called How Twitter and Facebook Lead to Fascism by Richard Dolan, Intelligent Disclosure Official. I will say, by the way, if you have a YouTube channel that sounds like this, I immediately just start to chuckle a little bit because it's a little self-aggrandizing to have a name like this. I feel like Intelligent Disclosure. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Anyway, this guy's a Nazi, by the way. I'm almost certain he's a Nazi, at least from what I've seen of him. I think he believes the Jews are like reptile space aliens or something. So several layers of craziness. I'm really excited to get into this one. It's only 6 minutes and 20 seconds long. It's not like it's a particularly long video or anything, but let's go ahead and hear about how Twitter and Facebook lead to fascism. I would argue that Twitter and Facebook can unironically lead to fascism through the, pushing of certain fascist ideologies. And I'd argue that the type of content this guy makes is probably what could lead to fascism through these social media outlets. But I have a feeling that he's going to argue something like society becoming more progressive and people getting banned from Twitter and Facebook is fascism, because we've heard that argument from a lot of conservatives before, but maybe he'll surprise us. Let's find out.
Out of habit, we call our society democratic. We have...
I'm sorry, but hold on. Can we just rewatch that little intro bit there? That is what I want to see at the beginning of a conspiracy theory video, okay? There we go. Yeah.
Out of habit, we call our society democratic. We have elections, sort of, and politicians still pander to the public with idiotic platitudes. And we do hear establishment types drone on about our democracy.
There are genuine arguments to be made that our democracy is not quite as democratic as we like to say. We don't really have as much of a representative democracy as I think a lot of people claim we do. But at the same time, when conservatives argue this, instead of bringing up the non-existence of ranked choice voting and the fact that we're kind of forced into voting for one party or the other, otherwise our vote doesn't matter, or the fact that basically all of our politicians have been bought and sold through lobbying and personal interests and how that influences their policy, making. These are absolutely discussions to be had, but I'm almost certain this guy's going to start droning on about how the Jews control the media and control the government and I'll have all the money and yada yada. And instead of it being a genuine criticism of our system being as limited as it is in the way of electing representatives, he's going to go on about how the Jews control everything and the elections are rigged. I guarantee he's going to go on about that. Guarantee. And this is my first time watch. I don't watch these videos before I watch them with you guys. So at least when I've heard of this guy, in the message the person sent me along with this video, it said he's a crazy UFO Nazi conspiracy theorist. So that's what I'm going off of here. But let's see if I'm right.
But that's all meaningless. For one thing, no one's allowed to discuss the fact that our elections are manipulated by a constant barrage of propaganda, influence peddling, and are sometimes clearly rigged. God forbid anyone talk about that. or the fact that the U.S. has organized color revolutions around the world and now at home, or the fact that no matter who is in power, ordinary people are ignored, or the fact that everything worth owning is owned by the smallest number of criminals who control the political system, the media, Wall Street. They own all the agricultural land like Bill Gates and his pals, and run the internet.
I swear to God I didn't pre-watch this, guys. I swear to fucking God I didn't pre-watch. I swear to God I didn't pre-watch. I swear to fucking God I haven't seen a second of this fucking video before watching it on stream with you guys. Was this a paid actor?
Welcome to
paid fucking actor. That's the only explanation for this. Paid fucking actor that somehow knew exactly what I said he was gonna do and then did it. Apparently. I don't know. Ron's KFC, thank you for the $10. I really appreciate that. Thank you so fucking much. Enjoy that new Destiny DLC. I hope you enjoy. And Heza, hey, thank you for the $30. You are fucking based. Very big dick dono, or big clit dono. I don't know, whatever you prefer. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Let's continue.
National get-togethers to determine our fate at places like Davos, the annual Bilderberg Meetings, and by now, probably inside the gates of hell itself.
Oh, God.
So what do you call that system? Some strange mixture of digital snoopery and general fuckery.
Oh my God. I just noticed he has an ionizing salt lamp behind him, dude. Dude, okay. All that ionizing salt rock lamps are good for is licking when you're craving a little bit of salt, okay? Do you want to know what these... I watched a science video a few months back on what ionizing salt lamps are supposed to do and how they really are just a bunch of pseudoscience. Let me just tell you this, okay? For the amount of energy needed to cause a salt rock to radiate ions into the environment, like people claim these things do, you would essentially need to have a fucking arc reactor inside of it, okay? Because the amount of heat and light energy it takes to cause the like molecular, like on that level of atoms to break down to cause the ions from atoms to disperse and be radiated out from the rock, you have to break these fucking... You have to break down these molecules on an atomic level, right? To do that. It takes an insane amount of fucking energy to do it. It is they look nice, I guess, but most people who buy them are crazy fucking nuts. And, you know, considering what this guy has said so far, I have no doubt this guy unironically thinks that this fucking rock, the little lamp, the little light in the side of this rock is putting off enough heat to cause the atoms inside, like the electrons to separate from the neutrons and cause like there to be irradiation. It's like, you can't do that. It's not a thing you can have in your house. So yeah, I just thought I'd point that out because, you know, I learned about salt lamps recently, and just him having it behind him indicated to me maybe a little bit of a red flag as this guy's beliefs, especially when he's talking about hell and the Jews and all that. Yeah.
Practiced by big tech and big intelligence.
Oh, by the way, for those that don't know, he mentioned it before, Bilderberg. You guys have probably heard this before, mentioned mostly by Nazis. So for those of you guys that don't know, the Bilderberg Meetings, since its inaugural meeting in 1954, the annual Bilderberg Meeting has been a forum for informal discussions to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. Every year, approximately 130 political leaders and experts from the industry, finance, labor, academia, and media are invited to take part in the meeting. About 2/3 of the participants come from Europe, and the rest come from North America. 1/3 from politics and government, and the rest from other fields. Basically, it's a meeting of scientists, politicians, important people, basically. If you're somebody who unironically believes that, like, all the people in power are reptiles or something, like, I guess you could assume this is a case. This would be like a meeting where some shady shit would be going down. But, like, if you're a normal person who recognizes that while, yes, there are crazy conspiracy theory type stuff that does happen with our politicians and our media figures and whatnot, you know, Jeffrey Epstein was a real thing. You know, that was a thing that happened. And I have no doubt that was probably just the beginning of the rabbit hole. Absolutely. We know that, like, it's been a meme in Hollywood for a very long time that you suck the producer's dick and you get the role, you know? There's a difference between saying, yeah, there's some really weird creepos and bad people that have gained power and wealth and influence and perhaps use that as a cudgel to push certain narratives or selfish sort of goals and whatnot. Like, there's a difference between that and saying every single person in power in both government industry, science, media, etc., is coming together at a meeting every year, not to just like discuss what, I mean, it's publicly known that they discuss, but to discuss, I guess, world domination and how to push the Jewish agenda or whatever. By the way, if you guys want to get like an idea of what this guy's normal content is like, let's go ahead and take a look at his catalog. In Defense of Conspiracy Theories, The Richard Dolan Show, Richard Dolan Interview, MUFON, What's Up, Replay, talking about the TR3B, Richard Dolan Show, UFO shit, The Globalist Revolution, UFOs and Transhumanism, UFOs, The Gillibrand Amendment, and The Globalist Revolution, so more alien stuff, Christian ufology, an interview with Timothy Albernio, The Richard Dolan Show, Extraordinary, The Revelations, interview with the creators, Richard. Okay, I just want to say this, by the way, guys. I believe aliens exist, okay? I believe it's unironically more likely that God exists and that literally everything in the Bible is true, word for word, than well, maybe not the 7,000 years of Earth thing, because that's proven wrong, but like most of the shit, I would believe that God existed and built the universe and created everything before I would believe that everything we understand to have happened so far has happened, and we are the only life in the whole universe. I refuse to believe that. I find it more likely if we found out definitively that humans and what is on Earth was the only life that has ever existed, currently exists, and ever will exist in the universe somehow, I would convert to Christianity or some religion the next day. Abso-fucking-lutely. Because I believe it is impossible for life to have only happened once in all of the universe's existence. There's just no fucking way we're it. There's no fucking way we're it, especially when you look at how fucking like stubborn evolution is. Look at how stubborn life and evolution on this planet has been. Look at like the like amount of mass extinctions and horrible fucking apocalypses. The amount of apocalypses that have occurred that life has managed to stick around for on Earth, okay? The fact that life has been so desperate and evolution puts so much work into making sure that life continues to exist, because that's what evolution is. Evolution is basically just life leveling up its creatures to be more capable of surviving things that could result in its extinction, right? Because life inherently seems to have a pretty strong desire to exist. I mean, think about it, right? Evolutionary biology, everything, right? We all have the ability to, for the most part, procreate and create more of us. Like, procreation is a constant among every single living thing on Earth, because you have to have some way of creating more. Than things like in a lot of animals, we see they evolve, they get better at surviving. Life seems to inherently want to program itself to survive best in its environment due to evolution, which tells me, why the fuck would we be the only things that exist? Now, do I believe that aliens have come to Earth and like done stuff? No, probably not. No, definitely not. Probably. Like, I don't believe that like there's UFOs, alien abductions, yada yada. Frankly, I think if aliens came to Earth, either we wouldn't ever find out about them, or they would just show themselves to us. Because if an intelligent life that was capable of reaching us got here, they'd either see us as like a nature documentarian sees like a cheetah chasing down a gazelle in the wild and just don't get involved, don't show yourself, stay out of it and observe. That's probably what they'd be doing. It would probably be science missions about observing from a distance and we'd never know about them. Or if they were just like us and were as desperate to find other life in this universe as we are, which I would not be surprised if that was the case. I think that once you reach a certain level of intelligence, wanting to find out if there's more life in the universe is almost a guaranteed, then chances are they might just say, hey, we found you! Hey, what's up? Hey, you're the first people we found! And we'll be like, holy fuck, you exist! And that's how it would probably go. Unironically, I think that's how it'd probably go. As for like, or they see us to slaughter, why? Josh Kiss, what possible theoretical motivation could an alien species with the capability of reaching Earth, with the capability of surpassing the speed of light, what could they need from us? Slave labor? No, by that point, they've got drones that can recreate themselves, okay? Food? They can molecularly create food at a whim, okay? A threat? We're not a threat to them. If anything, they would probably see us as an extraordinarily intriguing science project. To observe. Probably not, like abducting people, but to observe, Fermi paradox. So here's the thing. I don't believe the Fermi paradox is legit, because like the way that life seems to work, you could argue that there are things that like evolution just can't survive that happen eventually, but like, especially when you consider how far off we are potentially, you could say, from absolute annihilation and how far technologically advanced we are, either you would have to argue we have gotten further than anything else has, or the more likely solution, which is the universe is so incomprehensibly large that maybe the universe is teeming with life, but maybe it's just so big that it's so fucking spread out. I mean, if the theory is, if you took a cup of water out of the ocean, if you like reached into the ocean and took a cup of water and looked in it and saw there weren't any fish or anything in there, you wouldn't then assume there's no fish in the ocean, right? That's the thought experiment I've always used. Anyway, enough conspiracy babble and alien talk. Let's get back to the video.
Bureaucratic domination by all levels of our government and corporate masters, and nonstop propaganda and gaslighting that try.
No way they ignore us, though. No way do aliens see life on another planet and say, completely ignore. There's no fucking way. Because at the very least, they'd want to come here and establish a civilization of some kind. What do living things do when they discover new livable land? Even if it's already, already inhabited, they go and they build there. They could come and be colonizers, much like what we've done to human civilizations on Earth in the past. Or they could be at a point where they've advanced so much. And for I would argue that for a species to advance to the point of being able to like jet across the galaxy instantly and reach us, they would have to be absurdly woke. Okay? Can you imagine how fucking woke the alien species that managed to survive climate change and nuclear, the discovery of nukes, etc. Any species that's gone through those great filters that the Fermi paradox puts forth must be absurdly woke if they've made it through all of that and are now at the point of getting to us. It's possible they see us, find out how racist, transphobic, sexist, everything we are, and they decide to just destroy the planet just because we're so fucking bigoted. Maybe they're just so absurdly woke, they just cancel Earth by Death Starring it, blasting us with a Death Star beam, and we all get canceled by the woke aliens. Who knows?
Tries to convince us that we, the people, still have power and that governments and corporations actually care about us when, in fact, they're ramrodding a global-wide revolution down our throats and, of course, stealing everything.
There's a movie that I think depicts the most realistic scenario for aliens discovering humans possible. It's an alien, I don't remember the name of the movie. An alien species comes to Earth because they want to learn about human religions. They've solved death, they've solved disease, they've solved hunger and war and everything. They've come to Earth to learn about human religion because they want to know where the universe came from, and they think that God and Jesus Christ are the solution to that problem. Like, aliens came to Earth because they think Jesus was they apparently in this story, they found out that Jesus was a thing in their culture and their evolution on their planet, and they found out Jesus was a thing here as well, and they're like, fuck! Well, that means something, right? So then they came to Earth, and now they're trying to learn about human religion, figure out why the universe exists, because that's all they have left to do is find out why the fuck they exist. They've got immortality, they've got no problems to solve other than why the fuck are we here? And so that's the movie. I forget the name of it, though. What about the movie about them being refugees, like District 9? Well, District 9 is literally just an allegory for what's happened in the place. District 9 takes place in Johannesburg and is about the apartheid of the aliens in Johannesburg. It's very obvious what the inspiration was for that movie. I am excited for District 10, though. That's supposed to be in the works right now. I'm excited for that.
That isn't nailed down. Brave New World meets 1984, meets The Matrix, meets The Hunger Games, meets Ready Player One, meets Black Mirror, meets whatever. You get it.
Okay, I will say, by the way, all right, listen, okay? Tim Pool does this too. I see a lot of conservative figures that, literally can only base their opinions on things on media they've seen, okay? I feel like the discussions we've had here about, could aliens exist or not, are, real, if, okay, all right, hear me out. You get 10 of the smartest people in the world in a room together, the top scientists in the world together, okay? 10 of them, 100 of them even. And you ask all of them, Are there ghosts? Are there demons? Are there boogeymen? Are there Mothras? Are there Wendigos? Are there skinwalkers? They'll say absolutely not to all of those things. But if you ask them, you think aliens exist? They'd probably be like, maybe, probably. Most of them would probably say probably. I think if you got the smartest fucking people in the world in a room together and asked them, do you think aliens are real? You'd see them at least be a little bit less, even if they said they don't believe that aliens are real, they'd be less sure that aliens are real, I think, than they'd be sure that like demons, ghosts, and skinwalkers aren't real, okay? Let's be real, okay? Humans are very limited in how much we can see and understand of the universe, unfortunately. It's one of the, trust me, it keeps me up at night, the amount of things that we are incapable of observing about the universe because of where we are and when I was born and all that, right? Keeps me up at night, it does. Yeah, I think if you get the world's smartest people together, they all say, maybe there's aliens.
Some people call this authoritarian. That's pretty vague. Some say we're lurching toward fascism. Others call it communism. I call it totalitarianism. Some people think that's a bit of hype. I certainly don't. Totalitarianism has the word total in it. It describes a system in which the government has total knowledge and control over its people, in which every aspect of your life is examined, graded, and judged by an omnipresent and all-powerful authority.
Okay. Dude, like, the government exists. There are absolutely infringements of our privacy that exist. Dude, like, this is the problem that I have. Every time, like, a lefty or a progressive tries to bring up, like, the Patriot Act, for example, or basically just anything that's, like, actual bad shit the U.S. government has done in the past, now it's like, you feel like you're walking a tightrope between this guy and just being, like, a liberal who just makes excuses for people in power and never criticizes the government or anything like that. Like, you feel like you're walking this tightrope between those two, because if you don't engage in your messaging absolutely perfectly, you might accidentally give people the impression you're on one side of that tightrope instead of being on that tightrope, you know? Because, like, this guy makes talking about this kind of stuff, and are genuine conversations to be had about this kind of stuff, sound like insanity.
But even totalitarian regimes need public support. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the Nazis or Bolsheviks just bulldozed over people and terrorized them into submission. Yes, there was brute force and terror, no question. And also adoring crowds. You go and look at some of those Nazi rallies from the 1930s. You can't fake all that adulation. Those people loved what was happening in there.
Dude, okay? People who go on about how Hitler wasn't that bad, but he was an insanely good public speaker, give me such sussy vibes, you know? Like it feels like they feel like they're having like an extraordinarily like insightful, controversial, out of the box take, but in reality they're just they're repeating a take they've heard from people that are repeating a take they've heard from people that are repeating a take they've heard from people that know way more about radicalization and how messaging can radicalize a population to hate than any of them do. Okay, listen, this guy does not understand what academics and historians mean when they say Hitler was a good public speaker who had massive amounts of influence on the people. Okay. What people mean by that is Hitler and the Nazi Party took advantage of a populist push in the country against the Jews because the Jews were being scapegoated as the excuse for why Germany and many other countries were suffering from economic sort of destruction following how fucked over Germany got following World War I and the sort of like deals that came about after World War I and everything. And, when a country or a population is facing economic or social pressure, it is very easy to radicalize them, okay? It's easy to radicalize them towards socialism or communism. It's also very easily to say, hey, look at this ethnic group. Hey, guess what? They're the problem. Let's deal with them. That gets the job done pretty well as well. It's why around the same time as Bernie Sanders was growing in popularity, during that same time, where you see tons of people pointing out these problems in society and posing forward left-wing solutions during Bernie Sanders' popularity, Trump was at the peak of his popularity. And he was spreading the exact different, like, opposite opinions of Bernie, but they were acknowledging many of the same problems. At least for a lot of Trump voters, a lot of people who voted Bernie went over to Trump. A fair amount of Bernie Sanders supporters went to Trump simply because what appealed to them about Bernie was that he was anti-establishment and that he stepped out of the line, or that he stepped out of, like, he didn't toe the general line usually. People thought the same thing of Trump, even though it's absolutely a misconception about him. They still thought the same thing. And that clearly influenced their opinions on these politicians.
Society. They felt like winners again.
You know, I would absolutely eat a Nazi meth chocolate bar if there was one still around. I'm sure it's probably gone bad if there are any still in existence. But if I would absolutely take a little out of a Nazi meth chocolate bar just to know, just to figure out what it's all about. For those of you guys that didn't know, the Nazi army was like provisioned with chocolate bars that had methamphetamines in them that were meant to keep them wired and awake for long periods of time. The idea was you can win a war of attrition with your enemy during a battle, essentially, if you can stay up and energize longer than them. If you can weaken and exhaust your enemy, I mean, you and your wired out meth addict boys can just run over into the trenches and, you know, kill your enemy in their sleep, right? Or at the very least, like, go in while, like, most of the go in and do that while most of the army is like tired from exhaustion, right? That was the idea behind it. Didn't really work out. I think it resulted in a lot of Nazi soldiers like scratching their skin off or something. I might be thinking of the Russian sleep experiment and not the meth candy, but you know, similar shit. And the Russian sleep experiment also wasn't real, so I might be mixing up a creepypasta with real history here. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Even the boring and evil Stalin had his adoring mobs, whipped up by propaganda, of course. And everyone knows about the mob insanity orchestrated by Mao in the 1960s when the entire nation of China lost its mind during its Cultural Revolution. And now...
That's a bit of a weird way to word it. Like, dude, people like this are incapable of responsibly engaging with, like, conversations like this. Here's what an actual responsible non-demagogic dumbfuck would say in regards to China and Mao's rise to power, okay? Mao took advantage of, just like very similar to the way Hitler did. Most populist leaders take advantage of populist movements, right? Like, obviously. And Mao was certainly a populist leader for sure. And obviously his push, you know, for a lot of things resulted in some pretty fucky policies that we'd consider a little sussy-wussy, you know, like the landlord slaughter. As much as we like to joke about that, was probably not a very good thing, you know? Like, just, that probably wasn't okay, all right? Let's be real. I'm not actually in favor of killing landlords. I'm gonna be real, guys. As much as I think most landlords are complete cunts, I don't think that being a landlord is in and of itself a crime worthy of death or punishment at all, okay? So... that's a little cringe, all right? But, like, dudes like this will just say, the country went insane. Like, this is not how someone you should be taking seriously talks about issues like this. It's very clear he has no fucking clue what he's talking about. By the way, I want to say, people who put so much fucking work into making their like, background look like they're worth taking seriously make me cringe. Is there anything in my stream background that I put back here that's meant to make it look like I'm smart? Nothing I have a weed light. Okay? I've got nothing back here in my room that's supposed to be like, haha, look how smart I am. No bookshelves with like theory books I've never read filling it. No fucking paintings of like modern art. Like, I don't try to like fucking fool you guys. Your exercise thing, that's not an exercise thing, it's an inversion table. Clearly I'm not here trying to like fool you guys into thinking that I spend my time looking at like classical art, sniffing my ionizing fucking salt lamp, observing my little floaty magnetic globe thing. These things are really cool, by the way. They make these little globes that like are caught between two electric magnets, and it makes a little globe float between the two little magnets, and you got a little floating earth, and you can spin it, and it just floats there because of magnets. It's really fucking cool. I had one of those when I was a kid. Anyway, like looking at that thing and playing with it all day and looking at his little flattened out map of the earth, like, I don't know. There's something about the way he builds his set feels to me like you're supposed to click on the video, and before you hear a word that he says, you're supposed to look at that and be like, ah, this guy's a smart man. Look at how many smart man things he has in his room. Even though it's just a map, a globe, a salt lamp, and a classical painting, and an air humidifier.
Today. And this is where Facebook and Twitter come in. So think of a few things. First, we are now a society with near complete access to data, not just by governments, but by ordinary people. So that's one thing. Another thing is that we are a society that engages in non-stop public shaming of people who step out of line.
Okay, listen, the existence of public shaming is extraordinarily important, okay? I'm sorry. I think public shaming is probably one of the most important tools our society has. If it weren't for public shaming, then the only way that we would have to disincentivize people from doing bad things would be overreaches of state power. You guys realize that, right? Like, that's the only realistic alternative to society just generally frowning upon certain activities that cause harm to society, right? The only other option to that is government overreach and the government making that illegal instead of it just being frowned upon, right? You know that, right? Like, without that, then that would be the only other option for a functioning society. Like, yeah, like public shaming is important, okay? Like, obviously public shaming is a tool, and sometimes it's used against people who do not deserve to have it used against them. And in many cases, it's used correctly against people who do deserve to have it used against them. All it is a tool, just like disagreeing or criticism. That's all it is. It's public criticism. Public shaming and criticism, sometimes they're warranted, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they go too far, sometimes it doesn't. Some people manage to create a dialogue that makes them essentially immune to criticism as far as their audience are concerned. And they're immune to cancel culture, more or less.
Anyone who falls short of the current standards or is guilty of bad think. By now, this probably includes almost everyone. So normally, you'd think this can't be sustained. You can't have a never-ending Salem witch trial. You would destroy your society.
Dude, I love how these people actually feel like they're literally comparing cancel culture on Twitter to the Salem witch trials, okay? If somebody has to exaggerate the effect, like, okay, if you asked me, Xander Hall, what potentially negative outcomes are you concerned could arrive due to cancel culture? I could list a bunch of negative outcomes that could occur because of cancel culture. I could list things such as if you're part of a marginalized group and you get canceled on Twitter for some dumb shit and the left decides to disown you, you essentially now have no safe space for your identity to exist because now the left hates you because of something that you said or did that they misinterpreted and canceled you for too readily. Oh, sorry, I hit the space bar. You could argue that, like, it's very easy to have false positives. People on the internet are very quick to jump to conclusions when those conclusions aren't quite as backed up as they ought to be when you're making them. And sometimes it results in people getting canceled for reasons that aren't quite as valid as we would like them to be. That's the thing that happens. Like, I could go on listing examples of possible negative outcomes that could happen from cancel culture going too far. And not to mention, I've called it out. But when people like this guy, people who don't actually have any substance or meaning behind their statements, want to talk about something like this, all they have to say is, it's like the Salem witch trials are happening 24/7. Yeah, dude. Yeah, people are literally dying all the fucking time. And like literal like militias are going out and like capturing people for wrong thing. Like, if he weighs more than a duck, then he is a Nazi and we will put him to death. Wait, isn't it if he weighs less than a duck? I don't know.
That at some point, sanity would return, that the cultural revolution would be scaled back, that we would get back to sanity. You'd think that a society can't continue in which so many people, ordinary...
Oh, it's the same as a duck, not weight. I thought it was literally, if the woman weighs more than a duck, then she's a witch. I found that to be really funny, because that basically means every woman accused of being a witch is going to get burnt, which is like a hilarious like concept. That society was so sexist that just accusing a woman of being a witch was enough for people to burn her at the stake. Like, society being so absurdly misogynistic to me is just like kind of a good meme. Kind of a good meme. She was the same as a duck, she's a witch, lol. What if a baby is accused of being a witch? Fuck.
Ordinary people, not just the rich and powerful.
Wait a second. How did anybody get burned for being a witch if that standard was kept? Who the fuck weighed the same as a duck? What ducks are they weighing these women against? Either these women were like weighing 5 pounds soaking wet, or they were using some absurdly well-fed ducks.
Powerful, but everyone are intimidated to the point of terror at stepping out of line from ever crazier demands.
Listen, all I'm saying is I picked up a duck and carried it to my grandma's house for 4 blocks when I was like 6 years old, okay? If I was 6 years old and I could pick up a duck, okay, ducks are very light because they didn't actually weigh her right. I'm sorry, haven't scales existed for like a million years or something? Like the ancient Greeks had a computer that you just wound up and it could literally accurately predict where stars would be in the sky at any given time of the night. There's no way we didn't have scales back then. It's a comedy. I know it's a comedy, but still, I don't know. I'm just memeing. That is actually true, by the way, though. They found an ancient Greek computer. It's fucking dope. We'll watch a little segment of that video at the end of this one, just because I think it's really interesting. They found a rusted old ancient Greek fucking computer in a shipwreck in the Mediterranean Sea recently that's completely thrown a wrench in our historical understanding of technological like advancement.
Hands.
So much so to the point that historians are saying that if the Greeks had our understanding of science and math and mathematics, they would have reached the moon 300 years before their empire fell or something like that. Like, it's absurd. Like, the Greeks would have reached the moon within a few hundred years if they'd understood what we understood. Just the knowledge is all they would have needed. They would have been able to reach the moon. In the existence of the Greek empire, they would have been able to go to the moon, apparently. Had they understood what the measurements they were taking with this machine really meant, apparently. That is the claim from a lot of historians following this. But we'll watch the video after this.
Well, don't expect the crazy people to get tired of their power trip. No matter how much pushback, they will fight to the end. And besides, the people at the very top of our food chain, they don't have a problem with any of this. In fact, I think they love...
Dude, literally all you have to say is, there's some motherfuckers out there that are really greedy, they own a lot of capital, and they're not paying their fair share. And a lot of people in America, the vast majority of people in the world, are working class and are not even going to taste not in their lifetimes will they taste the amount of money some of these people will make in a year, okay? Will make in a day, all right? Some of these people. Like, you can have this messaging, but it's always like so fucking weird. Like, it feels like he's about to JQ at every fucking turn when he starts talking about this.
Love it. Why? Because keeping the people at insane levels of hatred has a real upside for our oligarchs. One is that it destroys public discourse, which is actually great if you want to destroy democratic society and create
Dude, how does cancel culture destroy public discourse, okay? Public discourse has never been more prominent and talked about than since cancel culture became a thing, okay? When you say cancel culture is a problem, you are actively advocating against the concept of there being public discourse. That is what cancel culture is at the end of the day. It really is just the most exaggerated form of public discourse you can possibly imagine outside of, I guess, lynching someone in the street. But, I mean, canceling someone on Twitter is basically the equivalent of lynching someone in the street as far as Twitter is concerned. But, you know, whether or not it's justified is a question on the Twitter sphere.
Totalitarian system. If you're going to have democracy, you've got to have compromise. We don't all have the same interests and ideas. It's actually a good thing. We all come from different places. We have different jobs. We have different goals. Some of us are from big...
I like how he thinks this is a controversial take. It's very cute. It's very cute that he thinks this is controversial.
Cities. Some of us are from the countryside. We think differently, but we all still have...
Well, actual cancel culture, like when conservatives engage in book burning, does damage public discourse. Okay, I agree with what you said, but I have to call out one thing about it. Lefties, you gotta stop trying to redefine cancel culture. I'm sorry. The right has successfully cemented the definition of cancel culture. It is what cancel culture is, what most of society seems to view it as. You know, that's generally how words work, you know, usually. It seems as though, like, cancel culture is a thing that exists. It's real. Sometimes people get canceled for absolutely dumb shit reasons. You know, Lindsay Ellis, ContraPoints, Vosh, me, we can go on for a while. You know, like, yeah, like, cancel culture, I like to think of cancel culture like I think of a gun. Or like I think of a knife or a weapon, just generally, or a tool, okay? Cancel culture is a tool, okay? If somebody went on Twitter tomorrow and posted a bunch of pictures of child porn, and that person got canceled, nobody in their right mind would be coming to the defense of that person. At least I wouldn't be. I don't know about this guy, but, you know, I mean, listen, I can only speak for myself. I would not be defending that person. I don't know about this guy, but I wouldn't, okay? And I'd hope this guy wouldn't either. However, if someone went on Twitter tomorrow and just said, I like waffles, and then 100,000 people then told them to go kill themselves and canceled them, I think it's fair to say that that would be a completely unreasonable cancellation. Cancellations like this have happened in the past. Obviously, Lindsay Ellis's cancellation is an example of probably the dumbest cancellation of all time. Guys, I watched a review of Raya the Last Dragon. The opening scene, like the like opening part where they explain the lore, is almost a copy paste of Avatar the Last Airbender's intro. They all lived at peace until the Fire Nation attacked. It's literally basically that is the opening of that movie. Lindsay Ellis was so spot on when she compared it to Avatar the Last Airbender. It was absurd. And she got canceled for it, to the point where she was suffering from depression. She was having blood. I think she talked about having blood in her stool because she was so stressed out. So she was having regular, she was probably having regular, what are they called? Ulcers. She was probably having stress ulcers all the fucking time. I used to have stress ulcers sometimes. Those were always really bad. But like, yeah, she was legitimately going through some of the most abusive and horrible treatment ever. And now she's gone. She quit YouTube. Didn't you guys know that? Lindsay Ellis quit YouTube. She's never coming back. She's gone. She put out her I'm Gone video and she's gone. She quit YouTube. She quit Twitter. She is now no longer a left-wing YouTuber. The Woke Scold successfully canceled one of the most influential, popular, and well-beloved left-wing figures on this platform. How many people do you think Lindsay Ellis both has pulled and would have pulled to the left had she not just been harassed to the point of quitting the internet? I wouldn't be surprised if ContraPoints isn't far off as well. Frankly, ContraPoint should probably, for her own mental health, quit YouTube. Like, if she's got the money for it, if I were her, I would quit YouTube if I were her. Because the amount of abuse she's faced is probably even worse than what Lindsay Ellis has faced. ContraPoints is a trans woman. You think a trans woman doesn't get more shit than a cis woman does? ContraPoints is probably, like, absurdly thick-skinned. I'm sorry. Like, I probably would have killed myself in ContraPoint's place by now. ContraPoints is probably like an absurdly thick-skinned person who's capable of handling a ridiculous amount of abuse, but it just doesn't seem that way because of her reaction. The problem is she's probably getting the highest concentration of abuse and harassment of any figure on the internet right now. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if ContraPoints is pretty fucking high up on the list of people who are getting harassed online right now the most. And she's still out there pumping out good ass fucking content. And that's something that I gotta fucking respect. Because I don't know if I'd be able to continue doing it. I would have either quit or fucking killed myself in her place by then. I don't know. Like at least from what I've seen from the outside looking in, which is a fraction of what she's gone through, a fraction of what ContraPoints has gone through, I probably wouldn't be able to handle it. Myself, because she gets it bad.
Have to live together. And if we want this ideal of democracy to work, well, that means you have to compromise. And people actually once believed in free speech. It was a point of pride. They'd say things like, it's a free country. And they believed it. It was okay to have different opinions. Well, that was a different universe.
Dude, literally all that happened. So, by the way, what he's arguing against right now is literally just people disagreeing with others online and voicing that disagreement. Because that's all cancel culture really is people seeing someone say or do something, disagreeing with it, whether it be, sometimes people lie and misrepresent what someone did, and that's why people disagree with what they did, and sometimes it's completely unjustified. I admit that happens, but most of the time, it's someone does something other people don't like, and they word their disagreement with it. Even when I get canceled, all it is are people who don't like me wording how much they don't like me, okay? I would never in a million years advocate for, like, the state or anything to clamp down on these people because they have opinions that I don't like, because they disagree with me, because they think I'm a piece of shit and they want to cancel me, right? Like, that's all it is. Like, what he's advocating for right now, when he says, oh, we want freedom of speech, but we hate cancel culture, what he's advocating for right now is only people who agree with me should have freedom of speech, because he considers people disagreeing with him to be an infringement on his freedom of speech, which is, Bullshit.
verse. Twitter and Facebook have destroyed that. Now we have ideologues and fanatics. No compromise, just a broken
that's
democracy.
ironic.
So that's one thing that happens when the Twitter mob goes after its ever-expanding list of targets. Death of compromise. Here's another thing, even worse.
One thing I want to say, by the way, projection like fucking crazy. Like, you ever notice that like conservative YouTubers don't ever have like research documents like left-wing YouTubers do? You notice how like left-wing YouTubers always love to have like fucking doc files with studies and facts and data saved onto their fucking like hotbar when they like look at basically any left-wing streamer or YouTuber, they got some fucking one-click button that takes them to some giant aggregation of data and studies and facts, okay? And that is because we lefties actually give a shit about the truth. The only way that we can effectively advocate for what we advocate for in a debate is to make sure that not only is our rhetoric good, but that we are making sure we have all the facts right, which is something that most left-wing figures seem to try to do, at least selectively. Plenty of left-wing figures are willing to be the best researchers of all time when it comes to researching a political topic, but when it comes to talking about another thing, then all of a sudden they can't even read past a paragraph. Anyway, pretty fucking dumb. This guy's dumb.
The longer this continues, the more terrified people will become, and the more tightly controlled their behavior and thought will become.
What he's basically arguing right now is people disagreeing with people makes them too scared to have the opinion people disagree with, and thus they don't have freedom of speech. That is what he's actually that is actually what he's saying here. He won't say it. Like, he won't actually say it, but it's what he's really saying without saying it.
Think of the angry Twitter mob as a pack of barking dogs. Dogs barking at you to get in line. Don't question the official narrative and raise your fist to the revolution.
Wait a second. Why is their opinion, which is in line with the official narrative, why can't they have their opinion? Why are they not allowed to disagree with you? Why is it that when they speak out on Twitter and they disagree with you, because now they're the ones who are anti-free speech, and you who are actively advocating for their disagreement to cease, for them to stop criticizing you, for them to stop engaging with your opinions and arguing against them, you are the one fighting against free speech, my friend, as all conservatives do.
And now, right on cue, we hear calls for the government to step in. We learn, to our shock, that Facebook puts profits before public safety. So, of course, the government has to control social media to keep you safe. But it won't stop.
Wait, is he admitting that, like, Facebook's allowed the spread of misinformation and now the government is having to clamp down on it? Okay, by the way, it wasn't the government clamping down on the spreading of misinformation. It was the government clamping down on Facebook, allowing foreign powers to interfere with our election. That's what it was. What was happening was Facebook was allowing foreign powers, particularly Russia and countries that have a stake in making sure that American political engagement is as tumultuous as possible, went out of their way to spread misinformation and to perpetuate right-wing memes that would cause division. Right-wing and left-wing memes, maybe, that would cause division. It was a thing that was actually discovered to be true. They did a whole investigation on it, guys. They found out that, yes, Russia was in fact influencing our election by running ads on websites like Facebook, spreading propaganda and misinformation in favor of Trump. And there was even evidence to suggest they did the same thing for Hillary because they wanted to play both sides. There was an argument to be made that it wasn't just they wanted to get Trump elected. It was they wanted to cause as much disagreement between the American people as possible, as much discourse between them as possible. That's at least been like one of the arguments I've heard from one of the people who talked about the Mueller report thing. There was the Mueller report, which goes into that a bit, and I believe there was a whole separate investigation that was done on Facebook in which, like, you can see the Facebook, like they grilled like a bunch of Facebook people about like their platforming of misinformation and how certain countries can affect our elections and whatnot. It was a whole big thing. It wasn't like, oh, people are having bad opinions, the government's going to crack down on them or whatever. It was literally like the government was saying, Facebook, like, you're allowing foreign powers to interfere in our elections. That's not legal. You got to stop, dude. That's what that was.
Stop the barking dogs. You'll still have to build back better and support the Great Reset. and the sock puppet mob supported by
Zan, they also did hack election infrastructure. They didn't change votes, but they did attempt it. Yeah. There was no evidence that Russia successfully was able to rig or change the election or anything, but there was heavy evidence found that Russia really tried to do it and that their motivation was to try and spread memes that would have favored Trump.
By our oligarchs. Well, they'll still be out there to keep you on point, because that's what barking dogs do.
Oh, did he say Great Reset? Oh my fucking god. Do we need to do like a research thing into the Great Reset? Because I keep hearing Tim Pool and like smooth brain dumb fucks talk about it, and it sounds like some fucking hyper libertarian dumb fuck shit. Thank you, Shenanigans. Thanks for the $10. You know, the 00 at the end of $10 looks like boobs, so that's pretty pog. Anyway, the Great Reset is the name of the 50th annual meeting of the Economic World Forum, WEF, held in June 2020. It brought together Wait, that is not what that can't be what they're saying it is. I don't think this is the Great Reset that they're referring to. The 50th wait, I don't think that's what they're referring to, because, like, okay, here it is. The Great Reset conspiracy theory. There we go. Hey, is it maybe a little bit, like, funny that, like, when you look up the Great Reset, the only thing that comes up about what Tim Pool and this guy are talking about is conspiracy theory? Camera glitch? Oh, I clicked on Candace Owens somehow. That's fun. The term Great Reset can also refer to a conspiracy theory named after the conference, which suggests that some world leaders planned and executed the responses to the COVID-19 pandemic in order to increase the power of governments and make it easier to introduce a range of socialist and environmental policies. Mainstream media outlets such as the New York Times, BBC, and The Guardian traced the spread of the latest conspiracy theory on the Great Reset, which had integrated anti-lockdown conspiracies to internet personalities and groups, including Candace Owens, Glenn Beck, Fox News, Laura Ingraham, and Tucker Carlson, and Paul Joseph Watson. Man, a lot of those people on that list were Nazis. That's not a good sign. The UK-based editor of Alex Jones's website, InfoWars, where he advanced the New World Order conspiracy theory. Ben Sixsmith wrote that the conspiracy theory had been spread by fringes of the right-wing Twitter, as well as Australia's One Nation Party leader, Pauline Hanson, a socialist left Marxist view of the world, and UK conservative writer James Delingpole, a global communist takeover plan. However, Sixsmith offered the WEF's partners include such. Okay, we don't need to read any more of this. Basically, it's a psychotic conspiracy theory. Apparently, okay. Wait, why did the? Oh, that's okay. So I like that the eye fucking pyramid is the first thing that comes up, first image that comes up when you look at conspiracy theory on Wikipedia. That is like the quintessential conspiracy theory image, though, if you think about it, you know? To be fair, it is. You know, this image is on our money. I wonder where it comes from. Like, what is the origin of the, like, who drew this? Like, who is the motherfucker who drew the original, like the original, what are they called? They're like,
Shenanigans has donated $7.
I'm trying to think. There's a term for it. Negative. It would be a negative, right? Would be what it's called. Who made the original negative of what we see in our money? Who was the illustrator who made the original negative? Was it one person, multiple people? I wonder. Illuminati is real. Freemasons. Oh God, the crazy Nazi I banned earlier came back on an alt. Jesus. Shenanigans, thank you for the $7. I appreciate that, homie. Very, very kind of you, my friend. Said, there you go. Champ, are you Chris Raygun? I'm not Chris Raygun, but I am Xanderhall. Thank you for the $7, though. Thank you. Hey, that actually puts us at $117 on the dono goal. Just want to say, if you guys feel so inclined to hit that donation button, if you got the money for it, gets me in that Sonic the Hedgehog, Shadow the Hedgehog costume even faster. Isn't that cool? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell icon if you haven't already and you want to see more from your favorite left-wing content creator. And of course, finally, if you've got anything else that you want to, so if you want to like follow my social media, there's links down below. You can support me financially if you got the money for it by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub over on my website, donating through Streamlabs, buying some merch, or even pledging super chat, hitting the join button, becoming a channel member, or getting a super sticker over on YouTube. But no matter how you support me, whether it be through a like, comment, view, whatever, it doesn't matter. I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.